Oh, that's right, friends. We got two shows dropping in a single morning here on this lovely Friday, October the 25th. This is your massive Friday and on into the weekend look ahead. We are going to be checking in on all 30 teams on today's show and basically what we're looking for on that team and what actionable fantasy basketball moves we can do based on what actually comes out of it. So this is a big look ahead. We're also going to have a very early injury replacement board. And of course, that'll change over the weekend, which brings me to the next point. That is, first of all, hello, I'm Dan Besbris. This is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Find me on Twitter at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris, because I'm not going to be doing shows on Saturday morning anymore. That was a draft season thing. I'm probably not going to be doing shows on Sunday morning anymore. That was a draft season thing. Now, if you want the updates on all the stuff we're talking about, like the injury replacement board, like game recaps, my tweet storms at the end of the night, players that are coming on and off of rosters, who are my ads, who are my drops, on the weekend in particular, you got to be following on Twitter at Dan Besbris. Hit that like button while we settle in, YouTubers. Everybody, stop and hit that subscribe button because we are growing and we are not slowing down. Not no way, not no how. But let's actually just jump into stuff. So there you go. This is your fantasy basketball must-watch Friday and weekend. We are into everybody's game twos, actually game three for a couple of teams, but we have a truckload of unanswered questions. So let's look at all 30. Again, a reminder to YouTubers, there's the various social media handles. Old Man Squad, once again, is the network feed. Like, rate, subscribe. You guys know the drill at that point. We're going team by team. We're going chronologically. We're not going alphabetically. This is by who's playing, and we're just working our way down the board. So the last team you hear about will be the last team that plays a game this weekend. I'm not going to loop back around and do Sunday because literally every single team, all 30, play Friday or Saturday. 20 of them Friday night, tonight. The other 10 get out there tomorrow. Got it? Good. The Brooklyn Nets. There's obviously plenty of things to be thinking about. Cam Johnson's interesting. Cam Thomas went crazy in the first one. Nick Claxton got ejected, and on and on and on. But the big one for me is, will Dennis Schroeder keep firing away? He took so many shots in their season opener back on, was that Wednesday? 16 of them. I can't imagine he takes 16 shots every game all season long. That feels like an awful lot. That feels like star level shot taking. Now, making is a very different thing, but like looking back, the last time Dennis Schroeder took 16 shots or even close to that in a season was that 2019-2020 COVID year with OKC, where he averaged 19 points, 3.5 boards, 4 assists. That was with Chris Paul, I believe, is the lead assist guy on that team. And Schroeder actually had some fantasy value that year. He had 2 3-pointers. He's not a good steals guy. It's weird because he's fast. You'd think he might get a couple, but he didn't really ever. But the interesting thing about Brooklyn now is Schroeder's the point guard. So even if, 16 shots is not happening, but even if he gets up into that like 13, 14 range, if we're going to see 6 assists and 13 shots, you might be looking at like a 15-6 guy, which might just barely be enough. The problem, of course, is that his other stats are quite bad. Basketball fans, it's that time of the year again. The NBA is back. From opening tip-off to buzzer beaters, BetOnline has you covered with the best odds. Almost struggled on that one. Biggest promotions and live in-game betting on all of your favorite teams. This season, every game matters, and BetOnline knows that. That's why they have every stat, every matchup breakdown, and even live odds to bet on during the game. And it's not just the NBA. BetOnline has odds on everything from football to the baseball playoffs. It's the World Series now. Hockey, political props, they got those too. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering, BetOnline. The game starts here. The Orlando Magic. Can any center emerge? I think we got enough information from game 1 to know that KCP is not going to be relevant, that Jalen Suggs had foul trouble and he'll be fine. Paulo will take some sort of step forward, but probably not as big as what we saw in the first game. Franz is going to be fine. So is this the year that the Magic finally just settle on a center, or is it going to be Wendell Carter Jr., Mo Wagner, and Goga Batadze all battling each other again? Sigh. The Philadelphia 76ers, the only thing really here is that stream time continues. We know Embiid and Paul George are still out. Nobody's getting evaluated there until early next week at the soonest. So Drummond, Kelly Oubre, have at it. Nothing else is all that interesting to me on the Sixers. The Toronto Raptors. Emmanuel Quickley's outlook. I assume we'll get some kind of update on him by later today. Basketball Monster had him listed as questionable last we checked. I don't think that he's been ruled out yet as of this morning. I'd be a little surprised if he played immediately. Usually guys that come out at halftime of one ball game for a very obvious, like, oh, bang, smashed the floor kind of injury. Usually there's like a game off there, but we don't know right now. So stay tuned for that injury report. That's a big thing. And then the Grady Dick stream. Yes, I know. Phrasing. This is going to be a complicated broadcasting issue all season long. Guys, his last name is Dick. Let's just get over it. Or don't. We can giggle. I'm fine with that too. But I'm going to say his name. I'm not going to just call him Grady Richard. We got to do it, man. The guy's last name is Dick. I didn't pick it. I didn't pick Dick. Ah, well. Anyway, he's a great stream if Quickley's out. He's an adequate stream if Quickley is in. Your Detroit Pistons. Will Tobias Harris have a little bounce back? Got off to such a promising start in that first game and then kind of turtled it a little bit. I think he'll be fine. I don't have any fear after one ball game, but I know everybody that drafts anyone, you want to see a good game as early in the season as humanly possible. It's just human nature. That's okay. I don't blame you. No one wants to wait on a good performance. So let's just get that first good one out of the way with Toby, and then we can not worry about it anymore. The Cleveland Cavaliers. Is it Evan Mobley breakout season? Mitch Casey, remember, came on the podcast, and he was talking about how high he was on Mobley. He was higher than me, and I was higher than ADP, but I was only a little bit higher than ADP. I had, and you can look at my buckets. All the buckets are still in that Google sheet. It'll be there all season long. I'm never taking that thing down. Totally free. Link is in the show description, et cetera, et cetera. You guys know the drill at this point. I thought Mobley had a chance to go like a half round earlier than where he was getting drafted. And Mitch Casey was like, no, it's breakout time. And after one ball game, pretty good. The Hornets. How does Trey Mann look with Brandon Miller out at least a week? That was some news from this morning, and I forgot to put that in our morning recap show. Brandon Miller has a strained glute. Got a strained butt. It's an interesting show. It's a 2-minute stretch where we've talked about Grady Dick and Brandon Miller's butt. Brandon Miller is out at least a week. Usually that means reevaluation and then out another week or something like that. So what do we think of Trey Mann? He had a big ball game that first time around, but we also saw him last year not have the efficiency to support a roto ad. But does LaMelo Ball change all that? I think, you probably have to put him on head-to-head rosters. Trey Mann should probably be on head-to-head rosters. Roto, you could probably take a little bit of a wait-and-see approach. I don't think I'm starting him in this ball game in Roto, even if I had already picked him up. So however you want to do it. Add and bench, whatever, for Roto, head-to-head, you drop him in there, see what happens, and hope that he doesn't tank you with percentages. Which, by the way, this week, because there are not that many games this week, percentages fluctuate harder. So you really want to not have the guy that poops all over it, which easier said than done because everybody's pretty rusty in their first game. The Atlanta Hawks, no Bogdanovic in this one, dealing with some tendinopathy was the latest report on Bogdan in his right hamstring, and that may be an explanation as to why he wasn't very good in their season opener. I would still prefer to buy low. He looked good in the Olympics. He was pretty healthy last year, maybe just easing him into things a little bit. Are the Hawks on a back-to-back? He asks himself out loud. No, they're not. So that's actually not great. But if we were thinking that Dyson Daniels has a chance to do it again in game 2, having no bogey around doesn't hurt. And then what about Onyeka Okongwu? I would assume that like there's almost no way he does again what he did in the last one, but they're also playing kind of another fast-paced pastry of a defense sort of team in the Charlotte Hornets. So who knows? But do I love both of those guys? I do. Am I also aware that it's a sell high for Dyson Daniels and Okongwu? I am. The Indiana Pacers. Will Tyrese Halliburton have that first mega game? He had great defensive stats in his first one, and overall it was actually a pretty good fantasy line, but it was not the line you drafted him for. You drafted Tyrese Halliburton to go get you a whole crap ton of assists, not to get you 4 assists and 5 defensive stats. So is this going to be the 18-point, 12 assist game for Halliburton? I think everybody would be pretty pleased about that. And Karl-Anthony Towns' last line of defense in their game against the Knicks, so why the hell not? The New York Knicks. I would like to know what Josh Hart is going to be when they play a fully competitive game, because the Knicks got swamped in the first one. Boston blew them out. They were up by 30 for stretches. Josh Hart got 25 minutes and had 12, 4, and 3. I would presume that when they play a team that misses a couple of shots, which the Celtics did not, that Josh Hart will have more like 6 or 7 rebounds. I liked the 3 assists, the fact that he's still going to kind of be in a bit of a ball-moving spot. I like the fact that he shot okay in this one. And they're going to have to play him a ton because the Knicks have no bench. Their bench is Miles McBride, Jericho Sims, and Cam Payne because Precious Achiuwa's out. What's going to happen when OG's body gives way? Which, matter of time, I would think. Knicks are a very thin roster. They've gone top-heavy, which can work, but you also got to stay healthy. I think Josh Hart's probably going to be rosterable this year, and frankly, the whole starting 5 likely will be. They all have their positives and their negatives, and hopefully this will be a better ball game for them to kind of show it off a little bit. Does Miles McBride have another good one in the tank? He scored 22 points on 10 shots, though. That's the key there. He ain't going 8 for 10 again tonight. He only had 2 assists, and that was it among all of his other stats. So Knicks, first of all, bad schedule, so not a great spot head-to-head wise to do anything with these guys. Roto side, would I trust McBride? I probably would not. You guys know me. I tend to play a little bit safe there, but I didn't see enough in that one. 22 points on 10 shots is great, but not repeatable. The Memphis Grizzlies. Dare folks start Santi Aldama again? He was very, very good filling in for Jaren Jackson in their opener. But also, we know Aldama. And last year, I was pro starting Santi when everybody was out on that team. And he still couldn't get it done because he's a low field goal percent guy. He's a low free throw percent guy. He's okay with blocks and not horrible in steals, and he passes well and rebounds okay. And so there's this weird, here's what guys don't need me to walk through my step-by-step on where I end up with Aldama. Head-to-head, Grizzlies have a great schedule starting tonight. They go 5 times in 7 days, so a great opportunity to pick up pretty much any Grizzly expected to get playing time. Basically any one of them. And just trot them out for a full week. You don't have to make another streaming move with that roster slot for one entire week. So that's Aldama. Scottie Pippen Jr. might get you 6 or 7 steals more over that week. Even Brandon Clark, who didn't play much in their opener, but probably figures to do a little bit more. Jay Huff played 22 minutes in the opener. Maybe. That's ballsy play, but crazier things have happened. But for Roto, no. I would not trust Aldama and Roto. Head-to-head, all of these are a much easier decision because, again, their schedule is so loaded up. I am watching the Grizzlies, and this is not so much just a weekend thing, but an overall thing. I don't know that I fully believe Marcus Smart is going to be a top 100 guy. I think he'll be a steals specialist for the most part. And then Zach Edey, we didn't get a chance to see him really in the opener. He went 1 for 5 at the free throw line and fouled out in 15 minutes. Basically about as bad as it's going to get. This one, a chance to maybe bounce back a little bit. We'll see, I suppose. For the Rockets, just waiting to see if Amen Thompson can get to 24 minutes per game. because it doesn't look like anybody else on the bench will, although starters got very heavy minutes in Houston's opening loss to Charlotte. Round 2, here we go. The Chicago Bulls, was game 1 a buy low on Josh Giddey and Kobe White, or is it just going to be kind of a complicated year for the Chicago Bulls? I am hovering somewhere in between on this one. They didn't play a team that's exactly known for their lockdown defense in the New Orleans Pelicans in the opener, although Pels were decent defensively in that game. Bulls just had 21 turnovers. They looked disjointed and out of whack, and obviously roster turnover will do that. Lonzo Ball, by the way, sitting out the front end of a back-to-back. He'll probably get around that 14 to 16-minute range in the back end of it. We will continue to track him as a roto active bench stash kind of guy. And then, Jalen Smith actually a pretty good first ball game. We're all just sitting here going, how long until he can be the guy? But Vooch is the guy, and we're only one game into the season, so it ain't happening anytime soon. I am genuinely concerned about Bulls fantasy values this year. It's why I drafted none, basically. I have a keeper of Kobe White in one league, but I like going into drafts, I don't know that I drafted a single Chicago Bull other than plopping Lonzo Ball in my 14th slot just to see what happens in a games cap league. The Milwaukee Bucks. Can Bobby Portis go top 100 this year? He showed signs towards the end of last season, but the problem, of course, is that in game 1, we saw a ton of Brook Lopez. It's not a problem. I love Brook Lopez. I wish I got more of him this year. And if Brook Lopez is playing those types of minutes, like 30 plus, which is what he got in a spanking, an absolute spanking of the 76ers. Brook Lopez played a team second most on the team at 35 and a half minutes. Then there ain't going to be enough. Portis in 25 plus is fine, but there's no upside there. The upside is, would Portis take some of the minutes away from Brook Lopez? And running up against Andre Drummond, the answer there was no, but maybe going forward, perhaps. Milwaukee playing Chicago, and you got to deal with Vooch. Well. The Golden State Warriors, the next name on the list. Will any of the shooting guard or small forward types separate from the pack? Andrew Wiggins was the good one in game 1, but it could be Podziemski in game 2. It could be Moody in game 2. It could be Buddy Hield, who actually played well, but only got 15 minutes, so that's not a sustainable amount of minutes. It could be Slow-Mo. It could be Gary Payton. It could be DeAnthony Melton. There are too many. And frankly, Jonathan Kuminga only playing 19 and a half minutes in the opener was also notable. And I know that game was a blowout and Kuminga wasn't great early and foul and whatever, but who the hell is going to play for this team? I will tell you once again, I drafted 0 Warriors not named Steph Curry or Draymond Green. Just didn't draft them. Too concerned. I'm going to do my best every damn day to tell you guys what I know to be true in fantasy basketball. And with the Warriors, I have no clue what they're doing on a night to night. And Steve Kerr's already come out and been like, look, I'm going to play a 12-man rotation. Oh, no. That's disastrous. That's too many guys. So you got Steph, who's locked into minutes, and Draymond, who's locked into minutes. And then you've got, that's 2. You got Hield, Wiggins, Trace Jackson-Davis, Moses Moody, Kyle Anderson, Gary Payton II, DeAnthony Melton, Brandon Podziemski, Jonathan Kuminga, Kevon Looney? That's too many. I want to see if the cream rises to the top, basically. The third most trustworthy Warrior is, in my opinion, okay, so Kuminga probably on the head-to-head side is the third most trustworthy. Overall, it's Trace Jackson-Davis because he only needs 24 minutes to be fantasy relevant. Kuminga needs 30. Hield needs 26, 27. Wiggins needs 30. Most of these guys need around 30. Melton, not quite that much, I guess. Oh, Warriors. Anyway, let's see what Trace Jackson-Davis gets to do in game 2. The Utah Jazz. Can Walker Kessler do it again? That would be cool. But more importantly, Colin Sexton's minutes were not good in Utah's first game. kind of slid under the radar because he had 16 points and like a generally fine fantasy line, but he only played 25 minutes in that game. And Jordan Clarkson usurped Sexton for some of that shooting guard job. And with Utah going into a youth movement, I don't know how they balance those two guys because Keontae George, they want to shoehorn minutes to, and Hendricks and Kessler, I believe. And then Markkanen, of course, he signed the extension, so there's sort of no reason in not letting him cut loose. That's maybe not great for Sexton. So hopefully that number comes up a little bit. This was a better game for Clarkson. Jordan's going to have his games where he's quite bad, and then you'll probably see more Colin Sexton there, but made me a little bit nervous there. I want to overreact to one ball game, but that was weird, and I don't know that anybody's really talking about it. The Phoenix Suns, is Yusuf Nurkic in trouble? You guys know I faded the crap out of him. He had a pretty good line in their first game with 11 and 9 and a couple of steals, but 22 minutes. That's the thing to watch. For the Lakers, also for the Suns is I think we saw what we needed to out of Tyus Jones, but I guess we'll see if that's an every night thing. It sure looked good in the first one. For the Lakers, I think the only question is how consistent Rui Hachimura can be, and I'm very much on board with getting him going until I see some reason not to. And actually, that reminds me, I didn't put him on the injury replacement board, but he should be, because I don't know that you guys always get mad at me about this. There's always a handful of you that get mad at me with the way I frame it. Rui Hachimura is playing well. We have never, during his Lakers tenure, seen Rui put up good numbers while Jared Vanderbilt is healthy. That doesn't mean it won't happen this year. This could be the season that Vando comes back and Rui keeps the starting job and keeps putting up numbers. But to this point, we haven't seen it. So for me, Hachimura is still considered an injury replacement. He's probably going to start anyway once Vanderbilt comes back. But then the question is, do the minutes stay up near 30 or do they peel down into the mid-20s? Because mid-20s ain't enough for Rui. So I'm going to add him to the injury replacement board. Don't let me forget. I'll probably forget. None of you can talk to me because this is a recording. Come on, Dan. Try to get it together. Pelicans. This will be game one without a bunch of the stars because DeJounte Murray's out for 4 to 6 weeks. We know Trey Murphy's out. I don't know if we have a final call on Zion for this evening. But do you roll with Jordan Hawkins? Do you roll with Yves Missi? For Roto, I want to see it for a game. You guys know me. I tend to run a game. I tend to run a game behind on that type of stuff. Although, again, if you have a dead weight spot, you can make the swap. I don't have many of those. Most of the slots on my Roto, the Yahoo teams at least, like those, they're 13. I have 13 guys I like on those rosters because those leagues, you pretty much get what you want. Head-to-head, I think you can be much more aggressive here. Pelicans played tonight and Sunday, both games in Portland. So those should be, let's say easy, but not a struggle. And then for the Blazers, good game out of Denny Avdia in the first one. Let's see if Avdia can do it again. And then Toumani Camara is the other name to watch on Portland. He looked pretty good in the first one. I don't think he's going to get to do all that much, but then can he supplement the not doing much with some rebounds, some assists, some steals, that kind of stuff? The answer was sort of yes in the opener, but also that's just one game. He was pretty good when he was one of the only people still standing down the stretch last year, but that's not the case right now. Only Shaedon Sharpe is out. On to Saturday. That was 20 of the 30 teams. The Los Angeles Clippers of El Segundo. Is Derek Jones Jr. a potential play, or is there not enough there? He shot the ball really well in the first one, and that was sort of artificially inflated his stats. I would say watch list. Denver Nuggets. Can Christian Brown do it twice? I added him in a few spots, but I am extraordinarily skeptical that he can do it 2 times. Wizards, looking forward to their second ball game because I have a small amount of confidence in Bilal Koulibaly, who had 8, 6, and 6 in their first one. And if he shows any aggression at all on offense, then that value skyrockets because he didn't do anything. I think he'll get around a steal, so expect that number to be decent. I think the field goal percent could be okay. I wouldn't expect a ton. Well, field goal, free throw might both be problematic for him, but he's a guy that I might try to get out in front of a little, especially on the head-to-head side if the Wizards start to let him do more as the season goes on. But I guess we'll see. That, again, we're one game in. Jonas Valanciunas played 20 minutes in the Wizards opener, mostly got his stats during garbage time. Is that the life he signed up for? I cannot imagine that that's what they promised JV. So, I don't know. I said it on the morning show. I don't have Valanciunas on any rosters. Not one. And I've got more than a dozen teams going this year. Not one. If I did, I would hold. The Miami Heat. I don't really have a question about the Heat. I don't think anybody beyond the big four is going to have sustained fantasy value. So I guess my only question there is, what is the usage breakdown going to be for those main four? Because the two guys that I thought would do less were the guys that did more in the season opener. And Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo were like gargling Benadryl during the first game. They were just completely gone. Celtics, I got nothing. It's a big fat nothing. My only question on Boston is, what do they do when their first back-to-back comes up? My presumption is that Horford's going to sit it. But guess what? That doesn't happen until November 1st and 2nd. So we got a minute. Yes, keep going. Oklahoma City Thunder, he says accurately. I almost called them the Oklahoma City Thunder. A little bit of a lisp. The Caruso minutes were terrifying in that first one. 19, not good. You're holding. We're holding. We're all holding. But that was bad. Timberwolves. Mike Conley got back up to 27. If that's where he sits, he will be fine. So I think Conley playing 27. I don't care what he did with them, frankly. Him playing 27 minutes in the Wolves game on Thursday bought him another week, at least, on my rosters. Dante DiVincenzo back under 30 minutes. If he clears 30 minutes, then you're talking about the DiVincenzo with upside, the top 75 potential. 26, 27-minute Dante is more like top 100 to 120 range, which is still fine. Still very much playable in head-to-head, but not tapping into that upside that folks were hoping for. Your San Antonio Spurs, can Julian Champagnie do it twice? He had a really nice first ball game. We talked a bunch about him on our recap show this morning. He does have a pretty well-rounded fantasy game if the field goal percent is not too awful. The other stuff is all pretty good for him. And, field goal percent, I still feel like when he settles in, he's kind of in that 45, 46 range, which isn't a disaster zone. And so I've got him on the injury. You'll see it in a minute. The injury board, or hear about it in a minute, for Devin Vassell. But again, you guys know me with Roto. I usually don't just throw a guy in there after seeing them do it once. I kind of need to see him do it with a little consistency. And then I'm also watching Jeremy Sohan because I see the outlines. I know what everybody's talking about when they're like, ooh, Sohan, this guy could be a fantasy thing. But he's got that trio, the points league trio of rough spots. And I want to know if he can iron them out. I wasn't willing to take the chance at the beginning of the year. But I'm curious. My morbid curiosity. 2 teams left before we get to the burger board. Dallas Mavericks. Klay Thompson had 7 boards and 3 steals in their season opener. That probably is not a thing that's going to happen again. He's also probably not going to make 50+% of his shots. So, if we were doing a sell high episode this week, Klay would probably be on it. By the way, that's not just because I was fading him this year. I would put Dyson Daniels and Onyeka Okongwu on that list also, and I love those guys. It's all about understanding value. Whether you like the player or not, if their value is too high in a moment, you go sell it like your stocks. PJ Washington, I started the fantasy offseason pretty confident, and then it dipped a little, and then it was back up again. I'm medium confident that PJ is going to be top 100 this year. I think you should try to get him. There, I said it. Go get him. I don't know for what, though. We'll have to think about that. For the Kings, Domantas Sabonis had 1 assist in their season opener. That's not good. Let's assume that that's a one-off until we see another ball game. They play the Lakers, which they tend to do quite well against. But if Sabonis assists are the thing that take the hit this year, his value falls off a cliff. So we have to just pray that's not the case. However, you guys want to know how many leagues I have Domantas Sabonis? 0. I'm not into the second rounders that are only getting drafted in the second round because they're expected to play in 80 ball games. It's too risky. What if he turns an ankle? What if someone bangs into his knee and he misses 3 weeks? Suddenly there's no chance of him getting to his value anymore. He's awesome, puts up great fantasy lines, but he's not my kind of guy on draft night. If I had him after seeing that first ball game, I would be a little bit worried. But it's just one, so take a deep breath, keep it in check. And then we'll also check in on the field goal attempts. Keegan Murray took a ton. DeMar had a ton. De'Aaron Fox was like, you know what? I'm just going to distribute here in the first one. Kings probably need Fox to do a little more offensively. Although I think they put Ant on him, which slowed him down a little bit. Still, like, Fox has got to be the closer for that team. I know he's deferring. He wants to get DeMar involved. He wants to make sure the other guys are involved from the get-go. But the reason you do that is so you have energy to take over late. See how the Kings develop over the course of the year. I'm fading them early this season, though. Not because I don't like the fit. I think DeMar is going to be pretty good there. Overall, I think he probably helps them. But it's hard to incorporate a new high-usage guy. It just is. And who did I say I was going to add to the injury replacement board? Was it Rui? I think it was Rui. I don't remember where he came up in this. He was down near the end here. Let's try to do this chronologically. Rui Hachimura. And you guys are going to watch me in real time throw some burgers on his name. There you go. Burgered. Rui's been burgered. This is, of course, the problem with trying to do it all in one recording. I could have very easily paused the show, but I'm lazy. All right, here's your injury report as of 11:15 a.m. on Friday. Obviously, these things are going to change. This is your starting point. We will make all adjustments over on Twitter. Let me put the at Dan Bespris. I'll make it larger for the YouTubers to see right now. There it is, at DANBESBRIS. So anything that changes throughout the rest of today and on in through Saturday, Sunday, whatever, we'll make those adjustments there. So come along with me, won't you, on our social media adventure. Chronologically, again, Andre Drummond, must stream. He's a triple burger for me. Kelly Oubre, only 1 burger. I might have gone, you could go 2 if you want, 1.5. Grady Dick is a 1 burger. If IQ is out, if Quickly's out, he's a 0 burger, but he's still a replacement if only RJ Barrett is out. Trey Mann, I'll give him 1 burger, but I am hovering between 0 and 1. He's like a half burger, but there's no emoji for that. That's with Brandon Miller out. JJJ on the shelf. Santi Aldama is a 0 burger. You can call him a half too if you want. Jordan Hawkins is like a half with DeJounte, Trey, and possibly Zion all out. Toumani Camara, I've got him as a 0 burger with Shaden Sharp on the shelf. Norm Powell is a similar thing to Rui Hachimura, who I forgot to put who was out on this board so that everybody would know what I'm talking about. Norman Powell is... So it's another one. I don't want to do this same speech all over again, but I do feel like it's kind of necessary. So we haven't seen Powell put up good numbers for the Clippers when Kawhi and one other star are together. Thinking back to last year, he put up numbers when 2 stars were out, which is what's happening right now. Paul George is gone. Kawhi is hurt. 2 stars are out. It's Harden, and then it's Norm. Easier way to think about that is Norm needs to be the number 2 option or better. Number 3 option or later, he hasn't been able to get inside the top 100. So maybe the Clippers are different this year. Maybe Kawhi comes back and Norm still does enough as the 3rd option. But prior to this year, that had not been the case. So that's why he's going to stay on my injury board in perpetuity. And at some point, we'll see Kawhi. I'm hoping for November, but we'll see. Rui, same story. And then Julian Champagny, one burger play with Devin Vassell out because he did it once. But you know me, I don't give full trust until I see it twice or more, actually. Will any others step up? Probably. And we'll probably get an injury tonight on a 10-game card that will impact the burger board over the weekend. But again, that will all take place over on the socials. Thanks for watching our back-to-back Friday morning episodes. I am Dan Bespris. This is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe on your way out. And if you have a moment, Apple, Spotify listeners, the 5-star reviews with comments really, really go a long way, especially when we can sort of like snowball it a little bit, moves it up the board, more people find it, especially considering a lot of people have been like, where's Dan? Because I'm not on my old show anymore. And then didn't bother to look for me. It helps if I can just be in their face, and you guys can continue to help with that. Fun first few days of the NBA campaign. Let's dig in. Let's have ourselves a good Friday and good weekend. My goal, just so you guys know, is to get a week 2 preview show out on Sunday in the evening, so you have a full day to process that before you put your Monday lineups out. The problem with that strategy is, okay, you get the early warning, but late injury news on Monday will once again have to be handled on social media. The good and the bad. I'm Dan for Old Man Squad. I'll see you guys when I see you. Yeah, that's it. Bye, guys.